And we are live. Welcome everybody to the CoinSec Podcast. Yeah, welcome to the CoinSec Podcast. This is episode number 43. We've got some interesting stuff to talk about this week. It's actually been kind of a bad week for blockchains. There's been some really interesting issues that have happened this week. I think a lot of the news we've talked about over the last few weeks has been primarily like exploits for smart contracts, which we have some of those today too. But in addition to those, we actually have some like protocol level issues to talk about this week. So should be a good episode. With me today, I've got multiple hosts to hang out and talk about the hacking news. We've got Mike Felch. What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's up? I'm just here listening today because I'm so far inundated with cryptocurrency. I'm so behind the scenes.
Welcome back.
I know nothing anymore.
No day like today.
Exactly. Yep. We'll catch you right back up.
Yep.
And we got Steve Borsch. What's up, man?
Hey, doing good, man. Doing good. Here for another one, right?
Oh yeah. Ralph May. How's it going, Ralph?
What's up, man? Just mining crypto. Just doing my thing.
Oh yeah.
We'll have to talk that dirty proof of work, right?
Yeah, dude. Just collecting hard drives. It's like my new obsession.
Oh, that's right. You're doing proof of space.
It's proof of space. Yeah. I dumped all those GPUs. They were way too expensive, and I bought even more expensive hard drives.
I was going to say, cool. Yeah, I don't think the hard drives are much better.
No, they're not. They add up real fast, right?
Yeah, and if the coin doesn't work out, you could always start up RalphNet.
Yeah. I'm going to save the whole internet at my house, actually. I'm going to be a backup data center for AWS S3. So
yeah, I'll subscribe.
Yeah, same security.
I trust you with my data.
Yeah, who shouldn't?
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got Ryan. How's it going, Ryan?
Going pretty good. Busy. We're getting ready on the behind the scenes for next week's. We got our Wild West Hack and Fest virtual Deadwood conference. So a lot happening on that side.
That's a good point. I think we might skip next week's episode maybe because of that. We'll have to discuss that with the guys, but I have a feeling right now, as of now anyway, that we'll probably skip next week's just because of that. Because both Steve and I are actually going to be running a blockchain hacking lab at Wild West Hack and Fest, which should be fun. I'm still trying to put together the final labs for that, but it should be good. Should be good. I might demo a little bit of it today.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun.
Yeah. It'd be cool to bring that to some of the attendees. So, in terms of, if you guys want to follow along with the notes from today, CoinSecPodcast.com, we've got the show notes up there. Make sure to check those out if you want to follow along with the articles. And let's get to it. Let's just dive right in. First article for today, we're going to talk about Zabu being hacked, not to be confused with Sabu from Anonymous. I think it's different. But Zabu hacked on Avalanche. So Zabu Finance, it's an Avalanche-based DeFi protocol, which I think, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first Avalanche one that we've seen?
It's the first exploit. We did talk about Avalanche last week a little bit. I talked about how people were moving off of Ethereum to these other side chains or these other chains, and the Avalanche was a good one because you can take your code from Ethereum's your Solidity code and basically just plop it into Avalanche and you're good to go. So that being said, some of the same security concerns transfer over, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the protocol tweeted Saturday that its Spore pool was possibly under an exploit and then confirmed on Sunday. The transfer tax mechanism, which was used to mint tokens, caused the value to slide to 0. Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So it looks like the attackers removed 4.5 billion Zabu tokens at the time. So yeah, even if it's not worth much, that many tokens is going to net you, what they say, around 3.2 million on this chain for this attack. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not large, but still it's quite a bit of money coming out of other people's pockets, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
They dumped them on the Trader Joe's exchange. Not to be confused with the food, but
Did they pick up some $2 chuck while they were there?
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a lot of $2 chuck. Just a heads up for anybody who's doing the math.
Yeah, so this brings up a good point. Talking about other protocols besides Ethereum and utilizing Solidity smart contracts, right? So a lot of people think that the term Solidity, right, is kind of synonymous with Ethereum smart contracts, but Solidity can be used to program smart contracts on a number of different protocols as well. And I think as more and more projects start to migrate to other protocols, you'll see more and more exploits like this on other networks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where they said that they went and traded on Trader Joe's, it's kind of like what you would call 1inch or PancakeSwap, or just one of those exchanges where you can go trade, you can pool, you can farm and stake and things like that. So users probably trying to cash out there. I don't know how hard it is to cash out from the Avalanche network anonymously. So I think that might be something interesting to come back and visit, see if anybody actually tracked this, or if we could track it somewhat.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any bridging services for this to, I don't know, Ethereum or something else, right? So see if you can move it out. But I mean, that tends to be the only way. Either that, or there's some centralized exchange that you can actually convert it to, whatever, US dollars, some other way to conventional banking system. So who knows? Atomic swap too. That'd be another way to kind of move it out. Or
there is a bridge for Avalanche. To use.
So what is a transfer tax, and how does it actually mint tokens? That's the part that I'm kind of confused on.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Asking the tough ones today. Hold on.
It's likely a function within the smart contract, I would imagine.
So, I mean, transfer tax sounds common, right? But I'm wondering how you could exploit that in order to mint that much. It seems like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to go look at the contract and kind of dive into it to figure that out.
Everyone kind of takes these, contracts and then molds them around, changes a couple things. They're like, oh, if we did it like this could make it better in some way, shape, or form. And that's when we find out if that is more secure. I don't know. People getting creative, right? That's where the security or vulnerabilities come from. So,
yeah. All right, let's move on. So next up, this was interesting. So I was just like looking through my news feed, like standard Twitter stuff, right? And I saw a tweet from a major news outlet basically saying that Wal-Mart was going to start accepting Litecoin, and I was like, what? Like, where did that come from? That came out of nowhere, like that's not.
Hit that buy button, right?
Buy.
Chase that green candle.
Oh, dude, I ran into Coinbase and was like, give me all your Litecoin.
Yeah, Ryan, scroll down, show that chart real quick. So the chart that's if you scroll up just a little bit there, Ryan, show the chart with the right there. Yeah, so basically what happened is this news source, what was it, Global guys,
Global Newswire.
Global Newswire. They posted this, fake news story basically, and a lot of the big news outlets just took it and ran with it. They're like, "Wait, what? Breaking news! Walmart's accepting Litecoin," and they started posting, that this was a thing, and immediately the price just took off, right? And then you can see the spike here. Everyone was like, "Oh wait, that's not real. Let's sell."
Yeah, you see the volume. I think that's interesting is the volume of transactions, right? You can see double at least.
Oh, everybody's like, oh my God, Litecoin, that was the one that Walmart was going to choose? Dang it.
Exactly. It'd be funny though if like, an Amazon or a Walmart or, a large company just decided to take one of the, not top 10 coins, like, just like, guys, guess what? We're going to go with...
It's going to be Doge. Yeah, that's it.
Well, Doge is top 10 currently, but,
Oh, that is true. That's true. I forget.
So would you consider this potentially malicious? Is this one person attempting to manipulate the market, or is this just I I mean, the news story can't be accidental, right? You don't just accidentally write a
It was
news story.
intentional. It's intentional. Like, I mean, so Globe Newswire is a distribution, right? So you could pay the $1,200 and it sends it to 3,500 news outlets, AP Mobile, Associated Press, Bloomberg, CNBC, CNN, Dow Jones, and then and you get a bunch of them, right? So, and the turnarounds is within 24 hours. So you put the article together, you pay whatever, you get like the 400 words or however many words. You could submit some pictures. I mean, it would be fairly trivial to kind of fake some sort of like email or some correspondence or something and like leak to a distribution. They turn it around, they fire it off, and then bam, and then the cool thing is not, I guess cool, depending on the concept, but then you have all these news places that want to be the first to push their story out. Because there's that race to get that initial story release, and so then you have them fighting over getting it out. So even if you don't get all of them, if you just get one or two really good ones, then it's pretty much game.
So what you're saying is we could just pay $1,200 to pump CoinSec coin?
Yeah, dude. All I heard was this is a great attack, and I'm not sure why we're not doing it.
I mean,
you're just selling it. You're selling it.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ones. There's Newswire, which does the same thing. You got Business Wire. You got all kinds of them, man. They're all over the place.
Ooh, I hate to use the word fake news, but
I would call it social engineering, right? If we're talking in security aspects, an attack. You're manipulating people. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And this could be done with, a botnet of Twitter bots too, probably. But then to get it to pick up on an actual news story is the hard part. So this was a pretty interesting way to do that.
We're going to have to talk about bots near the end of today. There's an interesting article where we talk about...
In the background, you can see that.
Yeah, they're getting it. They were getting it, for sure. Who's going to win, white or black?
Oh,
that's a jab.
It was a jab, yeah.
All right, moving on. So Ethereum, another Ethereum attack. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had the ETH vulnerability that we talked about in depth. And this week, we have a story about a failed attack on the Ethereum blockchain that occurred this previous Tuesday. The thing that's interesting about this one is it basically was able to fool certain software nodes, right? So the attacker published a chain of roughly 550 blocks that had invalid proofs of work. So they were trying to basically create this separate fork, right? And the thing that's crazy is that the majority of the ETH nodes rejected it, but Nethermind, so that's another really popular Ethereum client, actually switched over to the fake version. Which is bad, right? Like, and this brings up a really good point into why having multiple different client softwares is really important too, right? Like, we talked about the ETH one last week. That was like 70% of the network that was potentially vulnerable, and then this week we've got this one that luckily ETH didn't pick up the fake nodes in this one, or the fake blocks. But yeah, what do you guys think about this one?
So I think we saw maybe not exactly the same thing, but there was some kind of a like memory leak or something on the Chia blockchain where they had to kind of boost their network, their framework. So to see people doing this isn't like a new thing, right? Would you consider this a 51% attempt? Is this since you're minting basically fake blocks, right? Is this somebody trying to overpower the network and they just failed because of the scale?
So I don't think it was a number of mine, like a percentage mined that affected how these were created. I think they published a chain of roughly 550 blocks. So how they publish that, I don't know. Like that's
what I'm curious about. If they had to fork or basically mined blocks, right, and try to put those to the chain and get them accepted.
Potentially, it could have been a vulnerability too, right? Like similar to the ETH issue, where ETH had a vulnerability, and all the attacker had to do was publish a malicious block, and then ETH found it, and then started forking off on its own, right? So that could be another thing, right? Like, could be a vuln in Nethermind itself. Maybe that's why it's specific to Nethermind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we'll see some more of this. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that it was, didn't totally affect the network, right? The network did what it was supposed to do.
Unlike the next story.
Yeah, unlike the next story.
There it is. There's that transition.
Solana network.
Yeah. So next up, we're going to talk about Solana a little bit. So Solana went down for about a day. And
what's Solana?
So Solana is another blockchain similar to Ethereum, Avalanche. It's another chain that you can write smart contracts for and whatnot, right? So basically, this one, we were talking about bots a little bit ago. The transactions, there was what 400,000 per second at some point that overwhelmed the network, and essentially created a denial of service, and it actually caused the network to start forking.
Ooh.
And I think root cause wise, we started talking about this a little bit earlier, guys, is how it's somewhat centralized, right, in terms of the validators, right?
Yeah. Well, they also are. Solana's also, build themselves as more scalable alternative to Ethereum that is capable of handling thousands of times more transactions per second. So, whoops, maybe not that many anymore.
Apparently not yet. 400,000 per second. So.
Yeah, it also looks like their kind of like claim to fame is like, they're moving to proof of stake right away, while Ethereum is still proof of work as they make the transition. So it's kind of like, come over, join the party over here, right? But they, I guess, couldn't take that volume, huh?
So yeah, I just wonder like how much funds were lost during that, right? People trading and losing out. So it's pretty important. Do you go back to Solana then? I don't think it's really impacted the user base.
What's that saying? Coins are safe. Or
Safu.
Yeah, Safu. Yeah.
So yeah, Avalanche still trucking along. This one was Sol. I don't think we had too big of an issue with that. It's down a little bit. Took a little bit of a dip, probably about 6% or so, but still trucking along. So people are still investing in it.
So they don't have decentralized validators. Is that what you guys were saying?
They're more centralized than other validators. You can start your own. But I believe the majority of the network is centralized.
Do you got a stake to be a validator?
Sure, yeah, like with any other POS.
It said there was a part of the requirement.
Yeah. I wonder what so the reason I asked the question is I wonder what the amount is, right? Do you need like $1 million USD equivalent to stake, because that'll pretty much change who plays in the game, right? So I don't know what it is. Yeah. I mean, obviously, as the coin price changes, typically they like set like a amount of tokens, and then if the price of the token goes up or down, that could change the, the cost to get in the game. But, here we are.
Yeah, so it looks like is 50,000 Sol, is that right? Or no? Sorry. I was looking to see if I could find how much Sol it takes to become
all your soul. They want your whole soul. They want everything.
They should have had like a ghost or something like that, like a spirit as their little icon.
So it says no strict minimum amount of SOL required to run a validator. It says in order to participate in a consensus, a vote account is required, which has a rent exempt reserve of 0.02. Voting also requires sending a vote transaction for each block the validator agrees with, which can cost up to 1.1 SOL per day. And then there's like a 12 core, 24 thread.
Yeah, dude. The hardware recommendations are like not your laptop. Yeah,
I'm reading like the break-even point is about 50,000 SOL. I don't know if that's still true today, but
which is a lot, right? That's a lot of money. Because I think what's the SOL price at right now? It's like 100 something, right? Sol is at 144
no,
currently.
145. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ish.
So that's
Each.
yeah.
Expensive.
$7 million.
Yeah.
7.2.
$7 million to get started.
to make it break even, apparently.
Break even. Because you're at 10% of the validated returns is basically what you would be charging, right?
Well, there's your answer, Ralph.
7 million. All right, so that's probably why they couldn't keep up, right?
You might have to sell a few hard drives to get into one.
God damn it! I just bought these hard drives. Yeah. I don't have $7 million in hard drives. This rack would be much bigger.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting about this is you have a number of different protocols that are all battling really hard right now to become the most efficient, most popular, most innovative, right? So you
most
have like
green.
ETH. That's another big one too, right? A lot of them are moving proof of stake. Like you have like ETH obviously is the the front runner right now, right? But then you have Solana, which we just talked about. You have Cardano, is another one that just recently launched smart contracts. All of these different protocols are battling. It's like, what is it, like 1980s Microsoft versus Apple or whatever, right? I mean, they're all trying to figure out who's going to win.
Yeah, it's even worse than that though, because this is also like stocks too. People are like you're not gambling, but like betting on like what could be the next one, and they're all kind of moving in the scale, and the valuations are just, I mean, whose line is it anyways, right? Like they don't matter, and it's all made up, right? Like it just changes so fast. So yeah. But if you call the right one, you could be the next millionaire.
You could, or ETH 2.0 comes along and wipes them all out.
Wipes them all out, and they're just like, well, it was cool, man. I got this validator, $7 million.
Well, that's funny. I saw somebody tweet that if you spent $1 on Ethereum in January, you'd have $3 now. But if you spent $1 on Solana in January, you'd have $955,000. So, I mean, it kind of, the point there, right? I mean,
honestly, a lot of crypto, and like I believe in like what the technology is trying to solve, even though we're in like the early days still of like how that's actually going to look. But a lot of it reminds me of that picture we saw earlier with Litecoin and Wal-Mart, just pump and dump. Like a lot of these, it's wild. So, and there'll be more of those. Okay. So don't be surprised if that, going to zero, I think is hard though. I think, who is it? Some of the other coins that I thought were just going to die, like they never go to zero, right? For some reason, someone's still holding on to them and trading them.
Yeah, like
but
Bcash, Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is that even still on CoinMarketCap?
Yeah, whenever somebody tells me in crypto, like, oh yeah, and then one day it just ends up at zero, I'm like, actually, that just doesn't happen. I don't care how crappy it is. Like, I can tell you this thing should be zero, and for some reason, it's worth like 3 cents, right? So. You lied, right? Like I don't know why. So
today's transactions went up, 100%. There was, 6 cents worth of transactions. You got a major
yes. Yeah, I don't know. Just in the early crypto days, everyone's like, yeah, but then it could just go to zero. I'm like, you're right. But now I'm just like, no, you're wrong. None of them go to zero, even if they're freaking horrible. Like, even if they're like scams, like they're still, I don't know, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Next story. So this one is NowSwap got hacked. So the thing that I thought was kind of interesting about this one is this is very similar to an issue I talked about in the webcast I gave last week from Uranium that got hacked back in April. The issue with that was they basically copied Uniswap's code, and so they copied it, and then they modified a few values in it, but they forgot to change the actual like transfer number in all places. So like they changed like the swap amount from like 1,000 to 10,000, but they forgot to add a zero in like one spot. So like the actual conversion rate was like 1 to 10. So they were able to basically pull out 10 times what they put in.
So, any talk of rug here, or was they're like, no, we definitely weren't rugging it.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody talk about rug on this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
But,
it's
the
playbook is so simple, right? Copy some smart contract that's working, create a wiki page and a website and run it, and then be like, oh, we missed that zero, man. I'm glad someone caught it. I just wonder if some
server posted on blockchain.
Yeah, put it on Twitter, be like, follow us, pump it up for a little bit. People are using it. It actually functions, right? And then just be like, oh, we forgot the zero. And then, take all the money.
That's straight from the movie Office Space. Oh, I always put the decimal in the wrong place.
Yeah. I just wonder if any of these people who set this up have actually did it intentionally, was going to take the money, but then someone else found that before them and took the money. So losing out. So
well, that's why they have to do it for 10 different protocols. So this was actually the same hacker that put out uranium.
Yes.
The same company,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they put out both of them. It's just the same issue, but they only got got found on one and not the other.
That never happens in security. No. Our dev is our prod, right?
Yeah, they're the same thing. We just call them different things. Yeah. Build it as we fly it.
All right. So we're moving on to talk about Gelato.
What's up with all these ice cream?
It's not just ice cream. It's it's foods, right? Klondike.
Oh my god.
Gelato. What else? Popsicle finance.
Popsicle finance.
Oh my god.
Sushi,
yeah.
SushiSwap, right? It's all food.
Dude,
man.
but by the time I think of my exchange, I'm gonna run out of freaking ice cream or dessert names. So.
McRib coin.
McRib coin. No way. We'll get sued by McDonald's. We'll have to shut down.
You can only trade that coin at certain times of the year.
No, we just drop a news article on Business Newswire saying McDonald's partnered up with McRib coin.
There you go.
Yeah, right.
You can only buy the McRib with this coin.
All right, so Gelato. So what actually happened here? What's the story? All right, so many of the Gelato community members were shut out of the token sale by someone who managed to front run. So we've talked about front running a little bit, but I'll bring it back up to kind of describe what exactly is front running. So front running happens whenever you have the ability to read into the mempool and you see somebody else make a transaction and you front run them by making those transactions prior to that person that made the transaction by paying more in gas fees. And in this case, it looks like, so the project, they'd set aside $3 million in tokens for whales who could purchase between $5,000 and $20,000 of the GEL tokens. But they'd have to wait 6 months to claim most of it. And then there was another $2 million that was reserved for dolphins who could buy between $1,000 and $4,000 in GEL, but they would get it immediately. So the other thing that's interesting about this token sale is they did require KYC, so know your customer. So they actually had people post pictures of themselves, their driver's license typically. And then they also had them give an Ethereum address so they could whitelist those addresses for the token sale. So that adds another element of complexity to this attack. And basically, it appears that there was 510 wallets that managed to buy from that dolphin pool that were basically front run of the other users that were trying to buy. And there was a total of 2,638 users that were shut out of the sale and had their transactions reverted.
I'd be pretty mad if I went through all that KYC and everything and then got
Jeez, dude. They were paying
like this.
They dropped a gas fee of half an ETH, man, to make sure that they got that thing that fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. So if you look at the final numbers, it says assuming that they managed to buy roughly 3.5 million tokens, about a third of the circulating supply of 9.7 million, their haul would have been roughly $8 million, and they paid 1.5 million in gas to make that happen. Like,
I thought I saw a spike in my mining returns.
Right. So one of the things that I saw pointed out in this article was that it's really unclear how they were able to get a hold of so many identities. And one of the theories that this article posted was that, like, maybe they just paid like hundreds of people to KYC for them. Like the old school money mule thing, right? Like you pay somebody to do your dirty work, right? And
I would have to think in this case it's probably a little more automated than that, but that's absolutely possible. We see credit card cash out schemes like that all the time, or those little cards you can get and go cash them out, or $200 at the ATM, something like that. So people hire people to do illicit stuff all the time. I could totally see that. This kind of sounds like, and I would think they would know by now, but if somebody was able to basically transfer their permissions to these other accounts, or to create these accounts and then have them added, because they said that they had to put them on the allow list or the white list. How do they, maybe they found a way to just add those addresses to it via some exploit.
Oh, that's another thought. Yeah, that's an interesting idea there. So just like straight up exploit and add your own addresses. Yeah, I guess that could be a possibility too.
Yeah, I don't know how that function worked, but.
So explain to me this. So the way that they made money off of this was that the pool had 2 million, right? And they bought a bunch of them, but they were able to sell them right away. Are you saying the difference in price after they bought versus, is that how they made the $800 or 8 million? I'm sorry.
I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure where they went and sold them at. Maybe that article has more details on that part.
Yeah, I think from what I'm gathering here, it sounds like buying the majority of these and being able to sell them right away, the difference between what they paid and like what the current circulating value is what makes them that profit. That's my guess. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong. I guess I was just trying to figure out where you make why it's worth $500,000 in gas, and then additionally, doing all those KYC to get all those people, because you were only allowed to buy what it says 5,000 to 20,000 in gel per person, right? So, or wait, no, 1,000 to 4,000 for the dolphins. So you'd need, however many that is to make $1 million. And they paid 1.5. They bought about half of them. And they paid $500,000 in just gas fees, and supposedly it's worth $8 million now. So. Interesting. What if it went down? That would have sucked.
Yeah, this is a similar issue that we've talked about with some of the NFT sales, right? With front running for purchasing of NFTs.
Yeah.
It's something that I know is being worked on, right? Like that's a huge topic. So MEV, miner extractable value, is like one of the hot topics for Ethereum, like in the protocol world, right? Like they're trying to work on fixing. So, yeah, it's an interesting problem.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There was your answer. It was right at the end there. Coins are sold at 29 cents for the IEO, and they begin trading on Wednesday at $1.67. So yeah, there's your difference. Yeah. So it was, hey, get in early, buy as many as you can, and then, when it came out for the full trading, it's, worth a lot more. So, that $500,000 made them, $5-6 million in, profit. So yeah. Yeah, actually it's up to 230. So yeah, that's it.
Weird.
All right, moving on. So the next story we got is a supply chain attack against MISO. So SushiSwap, we just talking about more foods. SushiSwap's
we can't stop.
Token platform called MISO, which is a delicious soup, by the way, was reportedly attacked on Thursday with a hacker stealing 864.8 Ethereum, or approximately $3 million at current prices. So the thing about this that's interesting is that the way that this attack functioned was that it was a dependency issue apparently, where the front end of the application actually had a malicious address added to this NFT sale. So like there was an NFT sale going on MISO, and due to the front end JavaScript pulling like a third party library, the third party library, quote unquote, supply chain issue, right? Like where they were pulling from something that somebody else could control. The third party library updated an address that basically had all of the funds that were being put into this token sale or this NFT auction directed to their own wallet.
Mm-hmm. So we saw a long time ago, similar thing. Somebody on GitHub basically pushed some code to Ravencoin and was able to do some malicious mining activity. So this isn't a new attack, but to see somebody, I think, attack the front end is something new. Haven't seen that before, as far as I know, with these types of attacks. And I think we just talked about supply chain last week, or the week before, a little bit as well. We see this in the InfoSec community as well. And think about it: if you're able to infect a library that thousands of smart contracts are using, the damage you could do, right? If you're able to inject into that, but this looks like it went into only the one platform.
Yeah, and so it brings up an interesting topic around decentralization of front ends, right? So, with Ethereum, technically you can build an application that runs just on like your own system, like that you connect via just JavaScript to the ETH node, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, at the end of the day, like if you're using like a site like SushiSwap or Uniswap, those are centralized sites that are connected to decentralized smart contracts, right? But due to the fact that front end being centralized leads to issues like this, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes me wonder, like, where does the future take us when it comes to fully decentralizing those applications?
Yeah, how do you decentralize the JavaScript on the front end?
Right, is that Web 4?
Yeah.
Web 4, right? Where
next gen.
We think of Ethereum as the world's computer, right? If you're going to decentralize a front end that actually has to run code, you have to do that. And you want to do that at scale, right? You've got to execute code on other people's hosts. So you need some kind of virtual machine, kind of like Ethereum has, and to run the code safely, right? So, yeah, you'd either have to build something totally different or add it into the Ethereum ecosystem to where it ties into to being able to run front-end software like Node.js or whatever.
Yeah, and the other concern, right, is that you don't really know, resource-wise what people are going to have on their system. So like you can't expect everyone to just run their own node. Like I have a node here, like I could easily run like an application on just my own system and connect to the node locally, right? Like that makes sense, but that's not feasible for everyone. But maybe what if in like 10 years we see blockchains where it's much smaller, you could like run it on your phone, then you have like this full decentralized app that's just updating from your phone. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the JavaScript is, just making the smart contract look pretty, right, and allow you to interface with it. Obviously, you don't want to interface with it manually, so that's all it's doing. But I mean, maybe possibly some validators inside your browser that are validating whether this JavaScript is like original, right, with some hashes and some other things like that, right? So like even if it went to some random, so the URL stops being important, it starts to just be about like the JavaScript being able to validate that, right? Because that's what's running on your system. And then when you interact with that, when you type in or say you want to transact with the blockchain, you are transacting directly with the blockchain, usually like the MetaMask wallet or whatever, and the JavaScript in front is just kind of showing you how to where to click and stuff. So
I posted in. Go ahead.
I think a decentralized web like that, and I think of IPFS. We talk about it all the time, Ethereum and NFTs and things like that using IPFS, but it's static, right? We can't host dynamic sites that process code on the back end on IPFS, as far as I know. So,
right, and it's pretty slow.
Yeah, it can be slow for sure. But I mean, the whole decentralized point is the more nodes you have,
the faster it is,
faster
right?
it's going to be.
Yeah, the problem with IPFS and like the reason everyone talks about how slow it is because like the idea, like the goal is that if you're running an IPFS node on your computer just as like a natural process, then you'll actually be able to what do you call it? You'll be able to have that data right on your computer, and anyone who connects nearby will be able to access that data as well. And so now you're not like going to one central place to get it; you're getting it from everybody. And then the way you validate that is just by hashes, right? So that each hash is always the same. So it should be faster, actually, not slower, but
should be.
Yeah. So on the topic of protecting JavaScript, I posted in a link at the end of the notes there for a tool called LavaMoat. Which I had heard about recently, that it's a tool for protecting against this exact kind of attack. So it's a supply chain attack kind of protection tool. It's supposed to help, I guess, with sandboxing certain dependencies. So like if somebody were to go try to maliciously update, the front end, then this could help prevent that. And so this tool was also developed by MetaMask. So it's people that are working with the Ethereum ecosystem that are making this tool.
Okay. So I mean, this is kind of the solution right there, right? Or like a direction toward that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about potentially doing like a WAF in front of a smart contract. Is this similar to that, or how is this hooked in?
So this would be just on the
risks?
Front end side, right? Like, so this would just be on the application side, I think, not necessarily the smart contract, because you could technically like just go interact directly with a smart contract without ever touching the front end, right? So
yeah,
I mean, like,
go right to the blockchain explorer and run them, right? Like you could do it. It's just to be a pain.
And this is something that could potentially, I don't know if this would defeat what we talked about earlier with the supply chain and somebody, injecting code on GitHub. I don't know if that would work in this case, because this probably isn't monitoring GitHub, right? This is monitoring contract calls.
No, so I think it's monitoring JavaScript calls from your front end application. So like you have like a Uniswap front end, right? Or SushiSwap or whatever. And you have like these third-party dependencies that are just JavaScript libraries that are updated by somebody, right? And in the event that got updated and pointed to a malicious piece of code or something, I guess there's like some protection.
Cross-origin resource sharing, basically. You're loading content from another realm or another host, and that could be updated maliciously. So this would check against and prevent against that, I would think.
Yeah, it prevents modifying JavaScript's primordial, so object string number array, and then limits access to the platform API, so the window, document XHR, per package.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going to be going with this. It's going to be more JavaScript, more protections around, interfacing with that. So protecting the customer. I mean, there's been multiple attacks too. I've seen this where like, people are sending out the different URLs for something like any of these DeFi products, and they're like, oh yeah, check it out. And, you open it up there and it's like, it pops up and it says, hey, your MetaMask wallet is not syncing. Please enter your passphrase, or, it got lost. Please enter your seed to unlock it. That kind of stuff too. I've seen that. So
yeah, we were actually just talking about, or I sent you guys a tweet I saw this morning where some attacker airdropped like 200-something thousand of some random token. It actually looked like it was Chia XCH coin to various users, and the person went and actually started investigating it and saw that there's all these like denied transactions or whatever associated with that, and so they looked at the error messages and it said to go to this specific exchange to transfer those tokens that you got airdropped, and everyone's like, oh yeah, free coins, I'm gonna go exchange them for ETH, and you go to the exchange and it loads up and it shows the value that you have of that airdrop token, and it was like worth 6 ETH in a swap or something crazy.
Yep.
And then it turns out that like if you went and interacted with it, exactly what we just said, like MetaMask would pop up and say like, hey, this wants to transact some other coin, right? Like not your not the airdropped one or whatever, right? And they were trying to trick people into just like hitting that transact button on the stake exchange and sending something that's actually worth real money.
Yeah. We'll see lots of those scams. The other ones I've seen too is related to that, the airdrop scams where they make a new token, airdrop it on everybody, and then somehow inflate the value. So like they'll use some kind of exchange and then make it like almost untradeable so that the value gets held. And it's like, I got $300, I got $100,000 in this airdrop. Holy crap. And people think that, they won the lottery kind of thing. And then when they try to go exchange it out, it'll be like, hey, if you want to exchange this, you actually have to deposit some ETH to get, like 2 ETH, and then that'll unlock the ability to exchange it or whatever, and it's just all one big scam, right?
Basically a honeypot. I've seen a few of those on Smart Chain.
Yeah, because people will I have sites that I can go look up my Ethereum address and it'll tell me how much the value of that ETH wallet is at any moment, and some of those will pull in some of these new tokens, right? Because they're pulling in all these different tokens, and they'll pull in essentially like what is it, a scam drop, right? So yeah, another one to be watching out for. Free money isn't free.
All kinds of scams out there. Hey, I got a whole bunch of watches. I got some watches. Who wants some Rolexes?
I got these cheeseburgers, man.
So we've what a little time here. I can kind of run through the blockchain hacks demo real quick, and just, I probably won't run through the actual install, but I'll kind of show what it looks like. So next week, we're doing Wal-Mart Hacking Fest, which is an awesome conference if you've never been or you've never heard of before. It's a really great security conference that you should definitely check out. And at the conference, Steve and I are going to be running a blockchain hacking lab. And I had previously put together this kind of walkthrough. Oh, the quality looks bad. Okay, give me a second. Go ahead and Ryan, go ahead and take me off the screen real quick, and I'll try to change up the quality on it. Sorry about that. Let's see. I wonder if that's video resolution. So that's just going to be height. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to help at all.
Could read it.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, I can read it. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So so basically with this guide, this is kind of like just the quick start guide to get kind of up and ready for the labs itself. And honestly, like if you're interested in just kind of jumping into like hacking smart contracts and playing with smart contracts in MetaMask and the different tools, that's what this guide's for. So it's at start.blockchainhacks.com. And I'll just kind of walk through some of the steps real quick. First off, you're going to need a Linux VM. And feel free to just go with Ubuntu if you want. Otherwise, I do have an image from my Breaching the Cloud class that's linked in here. That does, if you're interested in cloud hacking stuff, it does have a number of different tools installed for that too. But yeah, just its typical Ubuntu system will work for this setup. And then I have you install Ganache, which is a tool for basically hosting like a local blockchain, which is really awesome. And give it a second. There we go. So with Ganache, basically this facilitates the ability to host like a local Ethereum network, essentially, that you can interact with. You can deploy accounts. So when you set this up, you can create these workspaces where you can actually give accounts like a certain amount of ETH. Like for example, by default, you can set up like 10 accounts with 100 ETH.
To be clear, that's not you're getting 100 free ETH like in real.
Right.
Like you said, this is your own little chain, right?
Yep. Yeah. So this is your own little test network on your own system. You don't actually own 1,000 ETH at this point.
Damn it.
But you can pretend, right? Like it's cool.
Yeah, I feel rich right now just looking at it.
You can. You just have to deposit 10 ETH over here to this.
Yeah. We have a new version that I made. It only takes 10 ETH, and then I'll give you the real ETH. It's perfect.
Yep. And then once that's up, I have you walk through installing MetaMask. So MetaMask is a really popular cryptocurrency wallet. We just mentioned them a little bit ago when we were talking about Lava Mode too. But it's an extension that you can install in your browser that allows you to interact with various Web3 technologies. And why it's important for this particular lab, for the blockchain lab, is we're going to use it to do a few different things. We're going to use it to deposit funds. We're going to use it to send transactions. We're going to use it to interact with Remix in a little bit, to actually deploy contracts as a specific account. But the cool thing is with MetaMask, you can actually point it at your local Ganache instance. So you can have your MetaMask wallet pointed at your local test instance, so you can actually play with MetaMask without ever worrying about like real ETH. You don't have to worry about sending any real funds. So, yep, walk through that, and then Remix. I have you set up Remix, which is it's an IDE, so there's a few different ways to go in and manipulate smart contracts. You could run VS Code. You could just do it on the command, or on a Nano if you wanted.
Brave.
Notepad, but Remix is cool because it actually has a lot of the various compilation and deployment functionalities built in too. So you can actually write your contracts here in Remix and then compile them, deploy them, and then ultimately interact with them. So let me scroll down here. So like when you go to deploy via Remix, it'll pop up, MetaMask. You can actually connect it to your local Ganache instance. So you can actually use Remix in the browser to deploy contracts to your local Ganache instance. And enables you to have like at least one way to kind of interact with smart contracts. And then Truffle is another development framework. One of the things that's really good about Truffle is that it has a lot of connectivity to Ganache itself. So with Truffle, you can actually write code. You can have a smart contract that you want to deploy, and then within Ganache, which is in the screenshot here, you can actually link it to the Truffle project. And then when you're after you've deployed that contract within Ganache, you can actually see visually and in Ganache like what the contract is, what are the different values, and whatnot. And then deploying it. So via Truffle, I walk through, compiling the contract, and then using Truffle Migrate, which is basically the way to deploy it to your local blockchain network. And then I'll also show how to use it with Remix too, because one of the things that I find pretty useful is that after you've deployed a contract with Remix, you can actually see the deployed contract in Remix itself and then interact with the functions. So like, for example, like this is a faucet contract that has a withdraw function. And within Remix itself, you can actually see that withdraw function and interact with it from the browser itself. It's really nice.
So between Truffle and Remix, what are the major differences? What situations would I need to use Truffle over Remix or vice versa?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say that Remix is really great for if you're just kind of developing and writing contracts, because you do have an actual like IDE interface, right? Mm-hmm. Where you can visually see what you're coding, right? You can get really complex with Truffle though, where you can start adding in migration rules. So let me give you an example. So like, let's say you had a situation where you had a contract, there was like an ERC20 token, and then you had like a pool, and you had like this complex ecosystem of various contracts that all interact with each other. You can actually write migration rules to basically tell those contracts how to deploy them and then what variables to pull from previously deployed contracts. So you can actually tell, let me go back to the Truffle page real quick and kind of show you what I'm talking about there. So in Truffle, whenever you first initialize a Truffle directory, you get a contracts folder, a migrations folder, and a test folder. And within that migrations folder is where you have this migrations file that basically allows you to tell Truffle how you want to deploy those contracts. So this gives you a lot more functionality for determining what's actually going to happen. So like this is like a very, very basic example here of just deploying a single contract. So basically, this is the migration file that I'm literally just telling it to go grab my block hacks contract and deploy it. But in this file, you could also say, you know what, I want to specify that this ERC20 token has 10,000 tokens minted, and the ticker for its block or whatever, BLK or something. And you can provide these additional parameters so that when you have multiple contracts and multiple things that you're worried about deploying, this is where you would specify all that.
Cool.
So like object-oriented smart contracts.
Yeah, exactly. So then finally, the last page, I have just kind of a quick primer on setting up vulnerability scanning of smart contracts. So there's a number of tools, honestly. Like there's probably 30 different smart contract scanning tools out there. But two of the main ones that are used pretty commonly are Slither and Mithril. And so I have some instructions here just to kind of give you a quick high-level view of how you would go and install these scanners and then run them against a contract. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the quick start guide. Like I said, like the idea here is that basically I'm just enabling the ability to kind of get set up and quickly run scans and kind of start looking at code.
Yeah, it's great. So run Slither, deploy to production.
Exactly.
That's a fact. Yeah. It'd be cool to set up like the Uranium Finance, like a duplicate of it, like that smart contract, and then try to actually play around with what they did, like, seeing. And I mean, like, I know we know what it is now, right? And it's not that crazy, but actually trying to play around with, see, how would you functionally take that money, right? Like, I don't know. That's just practice and stuff, right? So like how do attackers do that? How do they move that out? Like what does those transactions look like, right? So
yeah, and
I don't know.
In Bo's pages there, he's got some damn vulnerable DeFi, and I think another one, Ethernaut or something like that. What's it called?
Yep. Yeah. Ethernaut. Those are two the more popular CTF frameworks.
Yeah, where you can go practice, right? So if you're not to the point yet where you're going to go clone somebody else's contract and play around with it, there's some examples on there that you can test with and play with.
These bug bounty programs are real. They are really coming too, like as in more and more of this stuff. So I mean, that's definitely something to look at.
Yeah, and some of them are like $1 million for the bug
bounty. Yeah. The real money or a real token to turn into real money, however you want to put it, right? So,
and you might lose 600 million. Million's not too shabby to be thrown.
Yeah, right. That's a small percentage.
Yep,
so,
exactly.
That's pretty sweet stuff.
Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for this week, guys.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Next week there'll be no more hacks, so we're just going to demo stuff. Yeah, it'll be over.
Security by talking about it.
Yes, we have solved it. Yeah.
What's funny is like, I have a feeling like next week's going to be a really busy week because we're not going to probably do a show because I think we're going to skip next week, So what's going to probably happen is there's going to be a ton of stuff happen, and then we're going to have to like have an extra long episode in 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe to our Twitter. We'll be retweeting stuff as we see it and verify it, right? Try not to spread too much FUD.
FUD, yeah.
Almost.
Unless it's our coin, then yeah, definitely.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone, and thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for checking out the podcast, and like Steve said, CoinSecPodcast.com, and subscribe to YouTube's. Check us out on Twitter, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks. Bye, everybody.
Later, guys.
See ya.